It's Monday. How are you all doing? You surviving? It's been brutal, let's be honest. So let's have a quick take on what's happened since the apocalyptic events of last week. To recap, UST depegged, Terra's supposedly blue chip ecosystem death spiraled leading to rampant inflation in the LUNA token and catastrophic contagion throughout the entire crypto space. By the numbers, LUNA's all-time high, $119.18. All-time low, 0.000000999967 Incredibly, the LUNA token is now posting a 24,000% gain from that low. UST, the supposedly dollar-pegged stablecoin, is crashing once again from 14 cents and heading back towards that all-time low of 4 cents. A $40 billion protocol reduced to dust. Is there any hope of a revival? And if so, what is the plan? Well, Do Kwon is still very much active on Twitter, calling community members who've been devastated, in his words, by UST depegging. He says, "I'm heartbroken about the pain my invention has brought on all of you. Scant comfort for those who are affected, of course." He goes on to declare that it is clear that UST will not be the decentralized money that decentralized economies deserve. This has been one of the big promises of Do Kwon in the Terra ecosystem. He promises to release documentation detailing the use of the fabled LUNA Foundation Guard BTC reserves during the depegging, and claims not to have sold any LUNA or UST personally during the crisis. And Do, as you would expect, is getting crucified on Twitter. He also wrote his thoughts in response to numerous proposals from the community on how to revive something, or anything, from the ashes, which had been posted on Agora. Do's plan was this: fork Terra and distribute 1 billion new tokens to stakeholders in the chain, scrap the stablecoin experiment for now, and then do whatever it takes to retain what he sees as the most important component of Terra: developers and users, basically the stakeholders. So 40% of the new token will be distributed to holders of LUNA tokens before the depegging event, and then 10% to LUNA holders at the final moment of chain halt. 40% would then be given pro rata to UST holders at the time of the new network upgrade. But the response was not warm. In all this wreckage, it's clear, well, as it generally is in these things, that the smallest holders were the ones that actually paid the biggest price. So we now find the majority of support behind a proposal from Fatman, which aims to address this via what he's calling a tiered refund system using LFG funds. This is the LUNA Foundation Guard. And hat tip to Persian Capital for the statistics here. So the way this spins out is the vast majority of UST is owned by a mere 1,000 wallets out of the 256,000 or so total wallets out there. Now, some numbers are spinning around, but using the LFG's assumed $1.5 billion reserve, should Terra so choose, they would be able to make 99.6% of all wallets completely whole. In other words, the vast majority of the community. Now, Vitalik, of all people, chimed in and declared himself strongly in support of the proposal. Now, a handful of amendments have been made to this proposal. Only initial deposits on Anchor will be eligible, not the accrued yield. All forms of UST would count in the first refund, including UST staked in LPs, for instance. But the big one is number 3, where all wallets would receive relief up to a set cap per address. So under the proposal, if the cap is $10,000 and you only had $5,000, then you'll be completely made whole. But anyone with a greater amount will just have to eat the difference. Sorry for your loss. Now here's the thing. $1.5 billion assumed assets for the LUNA Foundation Guard. And when I said earlier that Do was promising to release more detail about where that reserve went during the crisis, well, they have indeed posted these details as we were writing this script. So here is the makeup of that reserve when it started. Now, the thread confirms that they began converting the reserve to UST when the price began to drop. And this is pretty painful reading. After the enforced selling, their BTC reserve is now a mere 313 Bitcoins, traded for an increasingly devaluing holding of LUNA and UST. The LFG total reserve balance is now somewhere between $81 and $82 million. And it's worth bearing in mind here that since mid-March, it had been slowly climbing in value to an all-time high of nearly $4 billion less than 2 weeks ago. So here's basically what they did. They put the reserve together in order to defend the UST peg. They then spent $3 billion in the space of about 48 hours trying to do so, and it all went in the bin. Now, in the final tweet in the thread, the LFG claims it will use the remaining assets to compensate remaining users of UST, smallest holders first. But with only $82 million to play with, the numbers make ugly reading. I ran a quick idea of this, took the total supply of UST and divided that into $82 million, and it doesn't end up being very much. So it's likely they have taken Fat Man's proposals seriously, but given these numbers, the market has responded as only it knows how. Not well. So we will keep an eye on the LFG and update this when they release their proposed plan to compensate holders. As always, stay safe out there, and please do forgive us for the sponsors' messages that follow. We are indeed obliged to include them. Peace. DidX is the future of decentralized derivatives trading. The exchange is on a mission to build the world's leading crypto trading platform. To further this mission, the team is now developing the next version of the protocol, version 4. DidX v4, launching at the end of 2022, will be open source, fully decentralized, and entirely controlled by the community. To help power this next step, the community has launched a grants program with funding allocated to open source builders, contributors, and ecosystem integrations. Come help build the future of decentralized trading at DidX Grants. In 2021, Ethereum traders lost over $200 million to malicious bots exploiting their trades. As DeFi continues to gain popularity, this number is expected to rise. Eden Network is a next-generation private transaction service for Ethereum, providing traders with MEV protection by submitting transactions directly to miners and away from the prying eyes of harmful bots. Using Eden Network for Ethereum transactions results in better and safer trades. Eden Network recently launched Eden Rocket RPC, which compiles some of Ethereum's fastest private transaction networks, resulting in 90% plus effective hash rate. This makes Eden Rocket RPC the fastest private transaction network available, protecting you from bots. Join the best and get started with Eden Network today and trade safer.